Hi everyone, so in today's video I've got another quick embroidery project for you. This is another free stitch file I got off the internet, and I'll leave the information where it's from in the accompanying blog post for this video. So if you're watching it on YouTube, underneath the YouTube description is a link to my website and blog. If you go over there and look for this video, you'll find the information. And if you're watching it on my blog, then the details are all in the blog post. So in my previous video, I'm not sure when this video is going to be coming out, but by the time you see this one, I think my previous tea towel video should already be on my YouTube channel. So this is a tea towel I embroidered previously. Just again, a simple free design off the internet. I'm just here for dessert, this one says. Now when I did this one, I didn't want it centrally in the middle of the tea towel, but I wanted it centered from side to side, if that makes sense. And I've left it probably about 4 inches or so up from the bottom. So this would hang over my oven door or cupboard door or wherever like this, and you'll see it. Quite often I hang my tea towels folded in half the long way. So this would be how it would hang on my oven door. Just try and zoom out a little bit for you. So it would kind of hang like this. So really, when you put something like this centrally somewhere on your tea towel, you're not, going to see the best benefit from it. So the one I want to do today, as I say, is this Farm Fresh, and I'm going to put it kind of somewhere down in the bottom left hand corner. So I've got another tea towel which is from the same set, and I've folded it in half lengthwise, and as I said, I'm going to put the design kind of down here in the bottom left hand corner, not necessarily in the corner, but I want to position it something like this. So rather than mess about trying to work out with the hoop where it's going to go and all that kind of thing, because I always find these things are, they can be quite tough to hoop, depending on how thick they are. So the last one I've just shown you, I floated, and I'm going to do the same. Somebody also asked me how you do a basting stitch on the Brother V5LE, which is the sewing embroidery machine I now use. So I'm going to float this in my hoop, put a wash away stabilizer over the top of it so that will help with the stitching, so you don't lose the stitches within the pile. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to position this and how I'm going to add a basting stitch. Okay, so I'm going to put my design kind of about here. It's central to this folded section, and I'm just going to do it, about maybe 2 inches from the bottom, so that when this is hanging over my oven door, this is what I will see. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get some masking tape, and I'm just going to put some masking tape on this just to hold it down, just so that I can position the needle so this stitches out in the right place. So I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and show you what I'm going to do with it next. Okay, so I'm just going to open the tea towel out now and put it under the needle and onto the hoop and hang it off the back so nothing is getting in the way. So this is where I want to stitch the design. Okay, so I've got the USB stick plugged into the side of my sewing machine, and because I want to add a basting stitch, I'm going to go to Embroidery Edit. I'm going to go to the USB stick, and I'm going to find my file, which I think is this one. Yeah, so I'm going to say set, and I'm going to click embroidery. So that set the design centrally onto my sewing machine within this area here, which represents my 8x12 hoop. Now I'm not going to stitch it centrally in the hoop, so that's why I'm using the paper. But before I do anything, I want to add my basting stitch. So if you look at this little icon down here, it looks like a flower on a piece of paper with stitches around it. If I select that, that automatically adds my basting stitch around the design. And you can set how far this basting stitch is from the edge of your design within the settings down here, which looks like a piece of paper with writing on right at the bottom left hand corner of the screen. And if you go into there and scroll through the pages and look for basting stitch, I've adjusted mine, so I think it's about 2 millimeters from the edge of the design all the way around. So I've got my design, I've got my basting stitch, and at the moment it's centered in the middle of the hoop, which is not where I'm going to stitch it. So what I want to do now, that's why using this piece of paper is going to help me. On this piece of paper here, there are crosshairs. So this section here is the middle of the design. These other lines that are vertical and horizontal are just basically like extended lines of that area. So using the arrows on my keyboard, I'm now going to bring the needle down until it's over the center of this design. And that will start stitching my design in place in this area rather than where on the screen it wants to stitch it, which is in the middle of the hoop. So I'm just going to move you back to the screen and show you the arrows that I'm going to be using. So it's these directional arrows here, and every time I touch one of these directional arrows, it will bring the needle to where I want it to. So I'm going to start by bringing it down, because obviously it's up in the middle of the hoop at the moment, up here, and my design is kind of down here somewhere. I could bring the whole design down, but I don't really want to. So I'm just hitting the downward arrow until the needle gets down towards this line. And then I'm going to hit the arrow going to the left to bring it over. Now, as I say, you know, you can manually bring the design down on the screen yourself, but I find if you use the piece of paper and the arrows, it will move it down on the screen, but it's easier to line up because you've already positioned. This is a full size design of what I'm going to stitch out. So you've already positioned effectively your pattern. Now you're just telling the machine where you want it to start. So I'm just going to move the left hand arrow over. Now I've gone too far, so I'm just going to tap it one at a time, and then it needs to come down until it's over. It doesn't have to be exact for the tea towel, but that now should be, if the needle came down, it should be more or less in the centre of that crosshair. And if you just look at the screen, by moving these arrows down and across, it's brought the design down, which I could have done manually, but I would be guessing where it's going to stitch it. By having your piece of paper and doing the up and down and left to right, you know it's definitely going to start there, and you know it's going to stitch out in the correct place. So now I'm going to, without moving the tea towel, I'm going to peel away the masking tape. I'm just holding the tea towel so it doesn't move. And then I can take the piece of paper away. So everything is now positioned. And all as I need to do now is put my piece of water-soluble stabiliser on top where the design is going to be. So if I bring this back in and line this up centrally, I actually need to rotate this. So I know I've got the needles set now. So if I put that back under the middle and just make sure my water-soluble stabiliser is in the correct place, ready for when I come to stitch it out. So I just need to thread up the machine now. I've got my bobbin fill in already. So I just need to load the machine up with the thread, and then it's ready to start. So it's going to stitch the basting stitch out first, and then the design starts with blue. So I'm going to load my blue thread into my machine and use that for my basting stitch as well. It's showing as black on screen here because that's what it's assigned as the basting stitch. Okay, so I'm just going to put the needle down and thread the needle, and then I'm ready to stitch out the basting stitch. So everything's in place. All I need to do now is press start. Okay, so when it's doing the basting stitch, I like to just hold the water-soluble stabiliser because it is very flimsy and it does want to move around. But once it's basted down now, you don't need to worry. You just need to make sure that, you know, all your project is not bunched up under your hoop. It's all out of the way before you start stitching. So now I'm just going to stitch step 1, which is everything I'm doing in this blue. Okay, so that's finished all the blue elements. So I'm just going to change the thread now to do the colour for the chicken. And I changed the colours of this in Embroidery Essentials. It did have more colours to this, but I wanted all these words and these scrolly bits that I've just stitched out in blue. I wanted them all in the same colour. So I've changed that in Embrilliance. And if you don't know how to do that and you'd like to see a video, just leave me a comment underneath this video telling me that you want to see how to change colours and colour sort, and I'll do you a video on Embrilliance Essentials. So the total stitch time for this design is 17 minutes and we're on 15, so there's only a couple of more minutes to go. So it's going to stitch out the chicken, and then I just need to change the thread again for the green elements. Okay, so that's finished. So I was going to do this last step with green thread, but now I've seen this colour stitched out for my chicken, I think I'm just going to stitch the last step in this same colour. So I'm just going to press the foot down and just press start and carry on rather than changing my thread colour. Okay, that's finished. So I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine and I'll just bring you back to my other desk and we can have a look at the design. So here it is. So I'm going to release it from the hoop. And on the back, this is a tearaway stabiliser, but I've got a good sizable chunk here that I haven't used. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut this piece away, because this can be used with one of my smaller hoops, and then I'll tear the rest away. But we've got these jump stitches from the basting stitch, so I'm just going to break some of these jump stitches, and then these should just pull out. So I'm going to tear as much of this away as I can. And I'm just going to flip it over, and then you can see now that the basting stitch wants to pull away, so I'm just going to pull all that away. So it's great having the basting stitch because it holds your water-soluble stabiliser down, but it also, you know, gives you an idea of where your hoop is going to go and all that kind of thing. So I'm just going to pull this water-soluble stabiliser away now, pull it out of the design as much as I can. And then any of the little bits I can't get to, I can spray with water and it will just instantly dissolve. So I'll just get in here where there's a biggish chunk. Just bring an old cutting mat in just to protect my grid paper from this water. And this is just a bottle of tap water. So I'm just going to spray it and it will dissolve any of that water soluble. And then if I turn this around, I can see all the bits of stabiliser melting away now. So I'll try and zoom you in. So there is the design. So that's the printout that I used to position it. As you can see, that's where it is. And it's lovely, this design, and considering it was free off the internet. So I'll go and hang it up. I'll take some pictures and just let me get rid of these threads and hopefully give you a closer view of it. So that's, as I say, how to add a basting stitch and how to position your design using a printout, which I did from Embroidery Essentials. And I also changed the colours when I was in Essentials, and I changed I colour sorted everything. So, you know, if changing colours and colour sorting is something that you'd like to know how to do, just leave a comment underneath this video. But that's today's video. I hope you like the project. Please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.